how do I want to feel? Because that's what we're getting at. How do you want to feel as you move through your day? That's the intention. And sometimes we're like, dang it, Kate, Hope, I don't know how I want to feel, but I can tell you how I don't want to feel. I don't want to feel so stressed. I don't want to feel so overwhelmed. I don't want to feel pulled in a million different directions, right? I don't want to feel so tired. I don't want to
Yep.
feel impatient, X, Y, or Z, whatever it is. So we just flip it. We just take that and say like, okay, great. You don't want to feel so tired. Maybe your intention is that you want to feel energized throughout your day. You don't want to feel so frazzled. Okay, maybe your word is that you want to feel present during your day.
Mm.
And so that is a way of taking where we are and identifying some of those pain points, right? Like what are those areas of friction? How are you feeling that you're like, I don't love this for myself? And let's turn it into something else. And so that way the intention is something positive, right? So I don't want us to be like, my intention is to not feel so crummy, like, because we don't want to put that energy out there,
Yes, yes.
So let's say energized instead.
Welcome to Hopeful and Wholesome, the show where ambitious women come home to their bodies. I'm your host, Hope Pedraza, and I'm a functional practitioner, human design guide, and expert on all things energy, and your partner in decoding the language of your body. This is your space to reconnect with your body's wisdom, reclaim your energy, and rise into alignment in your health, your business, and your life. Because thriving isn't about pushing harder, it's about learning to listen deeper. So let's dive in because your next breakthrough starts right now. All right, y'all, I'm here with Kate. Thanks so much for joining me today, Kate.
Oh my goodness, Hope, this is such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yes, I'm excited. So Kate and I are doing a little swaparoo, and so you got to go check out her podcast, and then she's gonna teach us a little something on mine. I'm so excited for this because Kate is. I feel like we were talking before we started recording. We're so aligned in who we're speaking to because I'm talking to just women who are high achievers and who are really wanting to live this really fulfilling life without burning themselves out, and women who maybe have experienced that overwhelm and with life. And I would love to start with kind of hearing your journey into this. And I know a lot of us have our own stories when it comes to talking to women about this. So I'd love to hear your journey of why this particular subject is so near and dear to you.
Yes. Oh, Hope, I love that question. So for me, it was a little bit of a circuitous path, but basically, I was always very much a high achiever, straight A student in school. There wasn't a checklist I couldn't meet, right? I got top grades in high school, Phi Beta Kappa in college, right? Got the job I was quote supposed to have. And then I kept living into expectations that I realize now in hindsight were maybe expectations that were not my own, but were maybe societal or put on me with good intention, but it wasn't in alignment. And so I woke up one day at 25, right on cue, and had a quarter life crisis. And, I say it kind of jokingly, but like in the moment, I remember sitting my husband and I at the time had this townhouse in Illinois, and we were sitting on this hand-me-down leather sofa that my parents had given us. It's the sofa I grew up on, and I'm just crying. And I remember my husband rubbing my back and telling me, I just wish I could make it better. And not all of us get like an aha moment in our lives, right? But for me, like it was like a light bulb turned on over my head, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I realized two things in that moment. I realized what I'm not changing, I'm choosing.
Mm.
And nothing changes if nothing changes. So I could keep showing up, keep pouring myself into my career, into all these different things I was doing, and still feel the same way, or I could choose something different. And so that was really the start of what's been now a 10-year journey. Now I'm 35, about to turn 36, and it's been this journey of trusting myself to take the next right step. And so I became a yoga teacher for many years. I was like, I need to get off the computer. I want to do something physical. I want to interact with other humans in person and not just in email. And I loved that. And then we started our family, and I had really challenging pregnancies. And so I started coaching online, and I'm a holistic health coach, did that for a long time. And then I felt this nudge of intuition to start the podcast. And so now I've had the podcast for about 5 years, and I'm a keynote speaker. And I just submitted the first draft of my first book, which is super exciting.
Awesome.
But it's all just been a journey of realizing something needed to change and continuing to take the next right step. So 10 years ago, if you had told me, oh, you're going to be an author and a top podcaster and host virtual summits, I would have been like, that's insane. I'm not even going to get started because that is scary and that's way too big. Right. And
Yeah.
so for me, it's all about shrinking it down and finding the next right step. So, long story not so short, that's why I love what I do because I want to help other women who are maybe in a similar season of a quarter life crisis, a midlife, whatever it is, but having that something's got to change moment
Yeah.
and maybe helping her do it in a little bit less of a circuitous route than I took.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's such a good story. And I mean, it's really, I mean, that's the best coaches are the ones who have this embodied experience and be able to
Yes.
help women walk through that. So I mean, you have that. And I think that's such a common thing. I too had a crisis at 25. Mine was divorce, but it was sort
Yeah.
of like this quarter life crisis where I'm like,
Yeah.
what do I do now? Like, I don't even
Yep.
know what, who am I? Whatever.
Mhm.
So how do you help women? Because I think that's the thing you were saying, like to really distill it down. I think that's what can be so challenging for women is you
Mhm.
have like, you feel like you're meant for something big, but it
Mhm.
feels too big in the moment to know what my first step is. Like, where do I start? With how do you help distill it down so
Yeah.
you are just taking that next best step?
Yes. Oh, that's such a great question. Okay. So the thing that I like to do, I've created this thing called the Live by Design Blueprint, and it's got three parts to it. And the first part is to set an annual intention. Now, here's the cool thing about an annual intention. It does not have to be January 1st or the first of the month or a Sunday. Like you could listen to this on a Wednesday in July and do this. And what I like to ask, especially for the women who are in that season, because sometimes when we ask ourselves, well, how do I want to feel? Because that's what we're getting at. How do you want to feel as you move through your day? That's the intention. And sometimes we're like, dang it, Kate, Hope, I don't know how I want to feel, but I can tell you how I don't want to feel. I don't want to feel so stressed. I don't want to feel so overwhelmed. I don't want to feel pulled in a million different directions, right? I don't want to feel so tired. I don't want to
Yep.
feel impatient, X, Y, or Z, whatever it is. So we just flip it. We just take that and say like, okay, great. You don't want to feel so tired. Maybe your intention is that you want to feel energized throughout your day. You don't want to feel so frazzled. Okay, maybe your word is that you want to feel present during your day.
Mm,
And so that is a way of taking where we are and identifying some of those pain points, right? Like what are those areas of friction? How are you feeling that you're like, I don't love this for myself? And let's turn it into something else. And so that way the intention is something positive, right? So I don't want us to be like, my intention is to not feel so crummy, like, because we don't want to put that energy out there,
yes, yes.
So let's say energized instead. So, we start with that piece and that can take some time, right? Like sometimes I think we think like this idea of a word of the year, right? It just like comes to you and you just know what it is. And if that happens for you, that's awesome. That's happened to me in the past, but there have also been seasons where I need to go for a walk and leave my earbuds at home and just be with myself in nature for a little while and kind of feel into like what is it that I want for myself and how do I want to feel and what's going on in my life that kind of influences that decision. So that's always the place I say that we start is let's just create an intention around how do you want to feel? And then we
Mm.
go from there.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a big one. And I think because it is really a goal is a goal, but it really is the ultimate, what's the word I'm looking for? But the whole like purpose of the goal is that. It's
Yeah.
like how do I want to
Right.
feel when I reach the goal? And I think a lot of times that part is missed. The thing with goal
Mhm.
setting, because I'd love to hear your perspective on this. I know I have a struggle with this and also being a manifesting generator, it's like
Mhm.
my brain's like, bleh, like squirrel brain. So like goal setting is
Yep.
always like, ugh. But I know sometimes and know this is part of what you help women with. The goal setting thing can feel very like limiting, restricting.
Mhm.
Like you say, it's a very masculine. Like I feel that. So for
Yeah.
women who maybe resist the goal setting thing, or like the goal
Mhm.
setting thing doesn't even resonate, like I don't even like it makes me feel like, oh, I don't want to do that. How
Yeah.
do we do that without doing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like how do we thread the needle, right? Like
Yeah.
how do we do a little bit of both? So
Yeah.
yes, I grew up with the whole like smart goals mentality,
Yes.
right? And the issue I have with smart goals, I sure there's a time and a place for them. It feels like a very masculine approach. It doesn't allow for the flexibility I need in my life. I work from home. I have two little boys at school. Like I can't tell you the number of times I've been called to pick up somebody early because they've got, a tummy bug or, like
Right.
my life needs to be kind of flexible. My goals need to be like that too. And the thing with SMART goals that really gets me stuck is the time component. Yes,
Mm.
giving ourselves an idea of how long it might take is really helpful. I'm always a big advocate of like, take the amount of time you think it's going to take and then add 50% because that's probably more
It's
realistic. But
true.
if I told myself, like when I think back to when I started my podcast, if I started my podcast 5 years ago and said, I want to be a top 2% globally ranked show in the next 6 months, well, I would have quit 6 months in because six
Right.
months in, I was still figuring out like how to string a sentence together.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so, that takes time and it's taken half a decade to grow an episode library of over 300 episodes, right? And to figure out how to effectively host conversations and things like that. And so the time piece in SMART goals really gets me. And so I like to think of goals as goals with soul because like does that just feel different to you, Hope? Like, does that feel
Totally.
different? Yeah.
Yes. I have a soul, so I need goals with soul.
Exactly. And it just feels so much more personal. Like it
Yes.
takes that kind of like stagnant, like, I don't know, like clean feeling. And it makes
Hmm.
it more like, okay, let's make it a goal that's reflective of you. So I like to say that goals with soul are four things. The first piece is that it's aspirational. So future Hope, future Kate, like they've totally got this goal. No problem. Like they're like, yep, I got that. But maybe current you, like, maybe it gives you the butterflies. Maybe your palms get a little sweaty. Like you're like, ooh, like I'm confident I can grow into the woman who can do that in the pursuit
Hmm.
of this goal, even if I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And that's the first piece of that goal with soul is like, okay, I'm not there yet, but I think it's James Clear in Atomic Habits. He talks about doing things that are like 4% out of your comfort zone.
Mm.
So you can grow into that person. It's just a 4% growth, which we can do. Even if we're not there yet. I was telling Hope recently how I just wrote my first book, right? And so when I set out to write it, my goal with Soul was to finish a first draft. It wasn't a New York Times bestseller. Like, this
Yes.
is book one. Let's be real. I've never
Yes.
done this before, right? So the goal with Soul is let's get the first draft done. And when I sat down and kind of created that goal for myself, I was like, okay, I am not the person who has done that yet. This is still aspirational, right? This is the first time I've ever done this. But I also believe that if that I can do this, right? I can grow into an author through this process. So that's that first piece, like aspirational. How's that feel for you?
Yeah, that feels good. I like it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, feels
Hmm.
so good.
Yeah.
Excellent. The first piece is aspirational. On the flip side of aspirational is that it's attainable. So, like, let's set a goal for ourselves that's something that I can do. So, for example, like, I'm not like, oh, I want a New York Times bestselling book, right? Would that be great? Amazing. That'd be super cool. But, like, I don't want to tie the attainability of my goal to something outside of myself right now. I
Mm.
want to tie it to, like, what is attainable for me right now? And so, if I show up consistently, I can finish a first draft. Or if you show up consistently, you can train for your first 5K. Or if you show up consistently, you can, really lean into your health and feel empowered, right? Whatever that goal with soul is for you. So it's two sides of the same coin. It's aspirational. Future you can totally do this, but it's
Mhm.
also attainable. If you show up consistently, you can grow into that woman along the way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's where we start. Aspirational, attainable. The next piece, which I think is so important for the women that you and I serve, is that it's meaningful. So many of us, we're great at doing all the things. You say you're like a manifesting generator, right? Like your brain's going all these different places, you're creating all these great ideas, you're putting things into motion, but it can be so easy to get distracted by like what other people think or what other people might feel about it. And we forget to set goals that are meaningful for ourselves. So if you wanted to go, like I almost went and got a master's degree in international education, which would have been fine, but it wasn't meaningful for me, right? And that
Mm.
was kind of part of what led to my quarter life crisis was like, okay, if I choose this route and I go further down this path, it felt like this big commitment to this role I was in this company and my education and where my future was headed. And it wasn't in alignment for me anymore, right? It
Mm.
wasn't meaningful for me. And so I say that to remind us that we don't need to, like, nobody else needs to validate your goal with soul but yourself. Like, absolutely, we need support. Like, we
Mhm.
need, like, our partner or our best friend or a parent or a kid or our community to support us, to hold us accountable lovingly, to give us help when we're getting stuck. That's all really important, but you don't need them to approve of your goal,
Right.
right? It
Right.
needs to resonate with your heart, right? Like your goal
Mhm.
with soul could be like, you know what, this year I need to learn how to rest. And I'm going to do that by being creative. And so your goal with soul might be, I'm going to join a knitting class, right? Or I'm going to sign up for that watercolor workshop I've always wanted to
Mhm.
do, right? And so it's just meaningful for you. So we've got aspirational, attainable, meaningful. And then I think this might be the key for making goal setting more feminine is that it's seasonally appropriate. Now, I don't
Mm.
necessarily mean like it's spring, like,
Yeah.
and your goal is to start a garden. If so, that's great. More power to you. Same here. But I mean seasonally appropriate. Like, do you have a newborn? Are you an empty nester? Did you just take a big promotion at work? Did you just step back and now you're working fewer hours, right? Like, what is the season of life? Are you caring for an ailing parent or grandparent? Like, what is your energetic capacity? And let's set a goal that's in alignment with that because otherwise, if we're already in a challenging season and we're like, I'm going to go hike Everest, like we might not be setting ourselves up for success. We're going to feel a lot of resistance along the way. And so I'm a big advocate of like, yes, let's set the goal that's aspirational, that helps us grow that 4%. But let's also be realistic about the season of
Mhm.
life we're in. And in that way, it feels so much more loving, right? It feels so much more
Mm.
compassionate for ourselves. Like, so that way we can feel good in pursuit of this goal instead of feeling like it's just another thing on the to-do list that we quote have to get done that
Right.
maybe doesn't get done. And then we feel crummy because of it. And then it's like a bad spiral instead of like this
Mhm.
upward vortex.
Yeah. No, that is, I love that. And I think that is such a more, it is such a more feminine way, right? There's more feminine energy
Mhm.
flow with that.
Yeah.
But I think that's the where I get, I know me personally, where I get caught up. It's you have these big well, and I also think it goes actually, we back up. I feel like first of all, it goes back to what you're saying about just taking the next best step. Because we have like the big
Yes.
goal that's out there that's like 500 steps away and we want to set the goal now to get to that
Yeah.
one, but it's like it takes 500
Mhm.
steps to get to that step. So I think that's where a lot of people get
Yes.
caught up is we want to get there now, but it's not realistic, it's not practical. I love the seasonality
Mhm.
part and being so realistic about
Yeah.
it because I think we the other part for me is setting myself up for disappointment. And so I think that's where what's
Yeah.
held me back a lot of times with setting goals. Well, I don't want to set myself up for disappointment. If I don't reach it, I'm going to be
Yeah.
disappointed in myself or frustrated with myself or whatever. But taking this doing it from this perspective, I think really
Mhm.
allows like you said, there's like flexibility and freedom and flow within that and not this
Mhm.
rigid set of like I have to hit all these benchmarks by this day and then I'm gonna,
Mhm.
there's just that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, right. And we already have so much pressure.
Yeah.
Usually our inner critic is already very loud. And so like, I love to coach on shifting from the inner critic to like that inner coach instead. And I think
Mhm.
part of that is like setting these goals with soul, goals that, they're true to you and you alone. And I think there's just something really beautiful about that and
Yeah.
really like it feels abundant and expansive
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
constrictive and rigid.
Yep, yep, for sure. And I think that's
Yeah.
the other piece too that you said that when you were explaining that piece, they're yours. Because just like,
Yeah.
you were talking about your quarter life crisis at 25, and I had the
Hmm.
same experience where you realize, like, was I even living my life at 20? Like,
Yeah.
have I been living my own life? Like, I feel like I hadn't. I was doing all these things that were expected of me or,
Yeah.
society or family, whatever. And so I think looking at goals this way too
Yeah.
helps you be able to really tune into your soul to make your
Hmm.
goals with soul so that it is aligned with this is what
Yeah.
I want and not what's expected of me or what I think I should be doing. And that's a big one because I mean
Yeah.
you're going to meet resistance immediately if you're setting goals
Mhm.
because you think it's what you should be doing.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And then it's going to be just so much harder. And then when you get to the end, if you forced it the whole way, you get to the end and you're like, well, that's done. Now what's next? Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh gosh, no, like because my whole thought of living by design and not by default is that, and it's cliche, but it's about enjoying the journey, right? It's
Yeah.
not about like, oh, I crossed the finish line of the marathon, but the 14 weeks leading up to it totally sucked, right?
Right.
Like I want to set a goal where I feel good crossing the finish line, but I also enjoy the process of building strength, of building
Yeah.
resilience, of increasing the mileage, right? Of honing in on my nutrition, right? And that's what I want. Like I want us to be able to find joy in the day to day
Yeah.
while still making progress. And so it's not like sacrificing your life in pursuit of this thing. It's
Yeah.
how can we fold it into our lives?
Right.
And that's why like the third piece of this blueprint, we start with the intention, we go on to this goal with soul, but the third piece is all about our habits. There's a study by I think it was Duke that says something crazy like 70% of our day is executed as a habit. It's just which is
Hmm.
just something you do without thinking, right? You wake up, pour yourself a coffee, right? You get ready for the day, you brush your teeth, you put on your clothes, right? These are like habits that we do. And so the third piece of the puzzle for me is how can we layer in habits, things that you're going to do that support your goal with soul. But I also like to think of a different set of habits, which are more foundational. And I think probably very much in alignment with the way that you teach, which is just how can we nurture our holistic self, right? So, how can we energize our body? How can we nourish our soul? How can we be kind to our mind, right? And practice mindfulness and creating those foundational habits so that we have resilience for all those different seasons of life, right? So that we have resilience for when things are going well, but even more importantly, we have resilience for when things are challenging, right? And we're
Right.
not starting from zero. And
Yeah.
we've got fuel in the tank to pull from.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Well, and it's just like you were saying, it's really that's the value of the journey, right? And I think
Yeah.
that we with the goal setting thing and setting goals, whether it's professional or personal or whatever it is, we get
Mhm.
so fixated on the outcome, like the actual
Yes.
goal. When with this framework that you're talking about, I think it really keeps us focused on the whole point of setting a goal. And it is the journey. It's the
Yes.
becoming. It's who are you becoming along the way. And I
Yes.
know this has been a lesson over and over that I've had to remind myself when I'm setting
Mhm.
goals or have, this vision of what I want to happen, whatever. It's not about getting there. It's not about getting to
Mhm.
the end because we're as humans, once we get it, we have to move on to the next thing. So then
Yeah.
it's just this perpetual chase to the next thing and the next and the next. It's
Yes.
not even about reaching it. It's about the journey and who you're becoming, the lessons along the way. And like you're saying,
Mhm.
building that resiliency, like that's the purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And being able to just be where your feet are, right? I think so many of
Hmm.
us, like, especially when we think about goals, we're so forward thinking that we can miss the now. And there's just so much beauty in being where your feet are, of maybe disconnecting from the computer for a little bit or your phone or whatever it is, and being with the people that matter to you, right? And being present with them. And it doesn't have to be this big expensive thing. Like for me, a lot of times it's like, okay, like so my family, we call it scoots. It's like a scooter ride, but all four of us have
So
scooters.
cute. So
And so like
cute.
all four of us go out down our little country road riding our scooters, right? And it's so fun. And we don't bring tech because like someone's going to fall. So you don't want to fall on your phone.
Right.
And we're just present with each other. Like it can be as simple or as silly as a scoot, right? Or, playing a card game and just being present for that time of committing to being with those people that you love who are nourishing, and it's nourishing the relationship. And that is like soul giving energy, right? And
Mhm.
so, how can we be present in our day and still make progress towards those goals? Because we get to celebrate the woman we're becoming along the way. And
Yeah.
that's maybe the last piece of the puzzle that I haven't quite figured out how to work into the blueprint is learning to celebrate each step, right? I think as
Yeah.
women especially, we have such a hard time celebrating ourselves. We're like
Yep.
so fast to be like, it was a team effort, or like we don't want to feel prideful or
Yes.
braggadocious or whatever. Psh,
Yes.
forget that. Like
Yeah.
celebrate your wins. Like the other day when I turned in the first draft of my book, I have this like little prosecco bottle in my fridge that like says like first draft
Oh,
completed.
I love that.
Tiny, like, but
Oh,
it's just fun. And I pour it into this special fluted glass I
oh my
only drink
gosh.
champagne from. And like,
Love
and
it.
it's a fun way of just marking the moment, right? And like
Yeah.
I poured that and I read a book and it was a beautiful sunny day. And I was like, I'm just gonna
Perfect.
create this little 20 minutes for myself to
Yeah.
celebrate, right? And
Yeah.
and as a reminder, life happens, right? So I was about to go do that. And then like my son's school called and was like, hey, Conrad's like stomach issues are coming back, can you come get him? So it was like, okay, yeah, of course. Went, grabbed him, came home, and then was able to have my little moment,
There
right?
you
So like,
go.
you have to roll with life, but to
That's it.
still take that time for yourself and to celebrate those little wins in
Yeah.
whatever way feels good.
Yeah. And you're right. I think that is a really tough thing for women, especially in the my Unraveling Birth series. I talked about this, how statistically men are so much have, how do I want to say it? They have such an easier time of promoting themselves and celebrating themselves. And women, we are the first to like diminish it,
Mhm.
minimize it. move on. It's a woman thing, right? We're not meant to
Yeah.
shine bright. Like we've just been conditioned to dim our light and to
Yeah.
make ourselves smaller.
Proven our shoulders on ourselves.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. And so and this is part of it. This is something I've been really intentional about. This was a few years ago where I had this revelation. I don't even know how I had the revelation, but that was it. It was like, and my husband has told me this for forever. Like, you never celebrate the small wins. And I'm like, whatever. But I had this revelation one day where I'm like, okay, you're right. I really
Yeah.
don't. And it really does make the journey less, um, fulfilling and less
Yeah.
fun and less and like you're saying, being present. You miss a lot of things. You miss a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm so glad that you said that because I think every woman needs to hear that and to celebrate
Yeah.
themselves more. And even and I think we feel like we have to wait for these big, like, huge things. Like you're
Right.
saying, like, oh, I have to be a New York Times bestseller and then I'll celebrate. But it's
Yeah.
like, can we just celebrate the fact that I got my kid to school on time today? Like,
Right.
let's celebrate that. Like, let's celebrate the fact that I got to go outside and sit in the sunshine for it. Like,
Yes.
celebrate the little things like that. It doesn't have to be big, like, milestones in your career, your business, or
Yes.
whatever.
Absolutely. It can even be celebrating, like one goal that I have is integrating more movement into my day. And I was
Yeah.
telling Hope when she was on my show how I'm getting over long COVID. And so I've had to really re-engineer what my movement looks like in this season, right? So I'm not doing the Tabata classes on my Peloton. I'm going for a 20-minute walk, right? And I'm
Mhm.
meeting myself where I am. And so for me, like sometimes a win looks like looking back like at my workouts from a week and being like, wow, I showed up for myself more days than not, right? It's
Yes.
not perfection.
Yes.
I'm never going to look for 7 out of 7 because perfection is an illusion. And what if I just show up for myself more days than not, right? What if I
Mhm.
can get 4 walks in instead of 0 or instead of 1? What if I just continue to choose what my higher self is aspiring to more
Mhm.
times than not? And so like, and that can be the celebration. That can be looking back and being like, hot dang, I did it. Like this week, I got movement in, and that was the goal. And I felt good during it, and I felt good after it. And like that is worth celebrating, the fact that you took time for yourself, because I
Yes.
think we forget that we're worthy of
Mhm.
investing time and energy and even your resources into yourself. Work with Hope, right? Like sign up and be like, please coach me, right? Like we forget that, like, we'll sign our kids up for like everything under the
Yeah.
sun.
It's so true.
We're like, I don't know if I should do this for myself. Yes,
Yes.
sister, do it.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I agree with that so much. As we start to wrap up here, I would love if you have,
Mhm.
and I know you mentioned your scoots, so that was
Yes.
one. But if you have any other strategies that you do or habits that you do that you feel like really help you with kind of staying in this mindset of these soul goals and kind of staying
Mm.
in the flow, what do you do for that?
Yeah. Okay. So I'd say 2 things. One is that I like to really keep them front of mind. So I'm a huge advocate of creating a vision board. And I don't mean a vision board that's like, look at my Ferrari.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe that's attainable for you. I don't know, but like, it's not on my vision board, right? So like, let's create a vision board about how that's reflective of how you want to feel. And
Mm,
let's put things on it that are reflective of your goal with soul and of the habits you want to implement, right? So keep it front of mind. And a lot of times, like if you see me look up, it's because like a lot of times I keep my vision board behind my desk monitors because
yeah.
I see that all the time,
Yeah.
right? Or
Yeah.
put it in your, if you have a closet door that you open up every day, like put it on the inside of your closet door, put it by your coffee maker, whatever it is. So keep it top of mind. And then the other thing I want you to think about is going back to that intention piece of how do you want to feel? And instead of telling you what works for me in this season, I would just encourage listeners to think about how do you want to feel and what is one thing you can do that helps you feel that way that you could do every day that has like the lowest barrier to entry possible. Like, do you want to feel energized? Okay, then you're going to go walk for 10 minutes every day, right? After finish your breakfast and go for a walk. Or if you got the kids to school, right, and you're about to start your work day, can you fit in a 10-minute walk, or can you do it over your lunch break, or whatever that looks like? Think about how you want to feel and then just do something each day that supports that, because these little things, consistency compounds. So if you show up 10 minutes a day, that's 70 minutes by the end of your week that you spent journaling or meditating, or maybe you don't like to physically journal. I have clients that I'm like, just take the prompt and voice memo your response to
Yeah.
yourself, right? Like,
Yeah.
but do the thing that helps you feel the way you want and repeat it over and
Mm-hmm.
over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And make it so easy that you're like, that's dumb. I can't not miss that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because we're going to make it so simple. Like you don't need to go buy equipment. You don't need to, just start where you are, meet yourself where you are and keep showing up. And that creates consistency, that can create confidence, and that gives you permission to kind of start dreaming and feeling into that space again.
I love that. That's so helpful. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. And I
Of
do have
course.
one more question I want to ask you that I like to ask everyone as we wrap up. But before I do that, can you let everybody know where they can find out more about you, working with
Mhm.
you, getting support from you, and all things?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Hope. Well, I'd love to gift your community if it's okay. All access pass to my Goals with Soul Summit from last year. So it was
Oh, amazing.
cool. Okay, it was a podcast summit. So, you're
Super
here, you're listening to a
cool.
podcast, you obviously love listening to things, right? So
Yes.
it's the Goals with Soul Summit, very much in alignment with this conversation. But I brought in 20 different speakers and I did a bunch of solo episodes too. And it's really to help you with this intention setting, the goal setting, and then the habit setting. And
Mm.
so if you want to use code HOPE, you'll get 100% off. It's a $97 value. So I hope I'll send you
Awesome.
all those details.
Yes.
And then, friend, if you want to get connected, there's another Kate House in the world. She beat me to everything. So I am Miss Kate House. So M as Kate, Kate, House, just like a house, House, is my website, misskatehouse.com, on Instagram at Miss Kate House. Those are the two places that I am the most visible. And then, of course, on the podcast, you can come listen to Hope over there. It's called the Live by Design podcast with me, Kate House.
Perfect. Of course, I have that all in the show notes and so excited for that summit pass. Thank you for that. That's
Of course.
amazing. Okay, the last question I want to ask you is what do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
Oh my goodness. I think it's to spend time with yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that would be my answer. I think it's to spend time with yourself and to reflect on who you are and what you desire and what you want to bring to this world and what you want to leave behind. And I think through this whole conversation, it's been about coming back home to yourself, right? And so for me, that's what it is. I think it's spending time with yourself without the distractions, without the cacophony and the noise of all the things around you. Just spending a little time with yourself.
I love that. That is beautiful. I love that answer. And I have to say, I cannot agree more with that because that's been the journey I've been on. And I just
Mm.
had this thought last week when I was doing a meditation. And I felt so cheesy in the moment. Like, this is so lame. But I was like, you know what? I really love this time with myself. Like this, I just gave myself a hug in the moment. I was like,
Yeah.
this feels so good. And it is just like you're saying, it's this coming
Yeah.
home to yourself. And once you do
Yeah.
it, you value it so much and it makes such
Mhm.
a difference. So I love that you
Yeah.
said that.
Oh, I love that. I think
Yeah.
everybody should give themselves like a
Yes,
hug.
everybody, group hug. I love it. Thank you so much, Kate. This was so insightful. I think this is going to help so many people in so many different areas of their life. So thank you for sharing this and this really, I mean, I feel like it's a new perspective on setting goals and having goals and doing it without the overwhelm. So thank you for this. Thank you for
Oh,
sharing.
thank you. It's been such a pleasure to be here and spend time with you today. Thank you.
Yay!
Way to
We're
go,
done.
team. I
That was
hope you
great.
are.